Beat-em-ups have been around as long as any other gaming genre, and just like platforming or adventure had its games, beat-em-up had theirs. Although debatably the first influential beat-em-up game was a Kung Fu Masters by Irum Games in 1984, it was back to Technos Japan that really got it going. In 1987, they created an arcade classic, Double Dragon, a game about two twins that go off to save some girl and prevent a gang from taking over the world, or something like that. It was so popular it earned its place in the NES library in 1985, as well as the Sega Master System, Genesis or Mega Drive if you live in the UK like me, the Lynx, and even the Atari, which is interesting. The franchise has been around the corner ever since, but is in no way dulled. Re-releases on several platforms and even fresh new games have appeared on the Xbox 360 and PS3. Double Dragon is something that really impresses me for a game back then, but I'm not here to review it. The AVGN did that and made a claim on it.
Your only chance to see beyond the first level is to either be a Double Dragon god, or to use 2 players.
Ah, come off it now. What if I want to play this game but no one will play with me? Here's my reaction. Hey, do you want to play Double Dragon 3 with me? So I'm gonna have to play it alone. Right, let's have the goal on the table where we can see it. That goal being a straight flush of fisticuffs battling against ace high thugs and 3 other kind goons. All in one hand. I mean life. In order to do this, I must be skilled in the ways of virtual arts and conserve life well enough to survive the harsh onhaul of enemies. But before I can do that, and this helps with pretty much every fighting game, I am to learn all the moves at my disposal. What works and what doesn't. B is kick, A is punch, obviously. Punch is for the most part useless as it emits a short and weak attack, mostly resulting in you getting hit at the same time. For this reason, I won't list any moves that required a punch to be executed first. The kick is stronger and has a longer range, taking only 2 kicks to send the enemy flying. When a punch is used after a kick, it beats them down to the ground fast. But when you use a kick and then walk towards the enemy and punch them, you grab their head, allowing you to execute a combination of kicks and or punches. This is the most effective move I can use on ground, as it deals massive damage and is easy to execute. Pressing A and B at the same time will make you jump. This opens up more moves to use, like jumping in a stationary position and then pressing the A button at or very near the top of your jump to perform the hurricane kick. Jumping as you're moving and pressing the kick button to perform what I like to call the eagle kick, extremely effective if you use it right. And a curious attack where you jump whilst moving, then pressing the A button at a very specific time just after jumping to form a sort of somersault that grabs the enemies by the shoulders and holds them in front of you in a smooth motion. Very hard to pull off, but very satisfying when you can do it like a pro. All these jump attacks can be fairly annoying to pull off and land a hit for beginners. There are also special moves for 2 players, which are the double hurricane kick and the hey have a bit of bimmy throw, where one runs and jumps into the other player's arms using an eagle kick, and a stationary player then throws him away into the unsuspecting enemy's face. So, armed with this information, it's time to set off to gain Double Dragon Godhood. Along the way I'll list hints and general tips I discovered, and hopefully these might actually be helpful to you as well. First off, you'll want to use the groin groan or elbow smasher as much as possible. These are easy to perform, take advantage of the kick's long range, deal a lot of damage, and prevent the other enemies from landing a hit on you until you've executed the full move. A great way to dodge enemy attacks is just to move up and down. Attacks are wafer thin on the horizontal line, and just moving up and down just a little bit can be a key point in winning a fight. Just move up or down, let them attack, then walk back and give them the old eat my knee. Works every time, with respect to human error. If 2 or more enemies just happen to overlap each other, then just kick them twice. Problem solved. Jumping attacks really aren't recommended at this stage. Although the hurricane kick can be really helpful when you jam between 2 or more enemies, the somersault vault is really awkward to perform. Okay, here I am saying not to use aerial attacks, and here I am using aerial attacks. You can use these attacks to your heart's content. Just don't make them your primary form of offense. Throw them in to spice up the match, not to dominate the taste. Jumping in itself, however, is a great way to avoid attacks and to get out of the fray. Don't forget to pick up items when you can. These increase range and strength, and it's better than having the enemy using them on you. Now, it's good to get into the clear open area, not near the cliff at this stage. It might be tempting to try to throw the enemies off to deal them off quicker, but really what you want to do is you want to have more space to play with. If you see an enemy walk away, don't try and kick or punch them. Instead, do an eagle kick. This is the opportune moment to kick them because it will almost guarantee to land a hit without any consequences residing to yourself. Okay, maybe a few. Some of my efforts being put to good use. I perform a groin drone on this chap, while this dude goes to do an eagle kick on my back. I am not hit, however, and a swift jump away prevents me from harm also. If you press start and then select, you'll open up the character selection screen. You can press A to change your weapon, and then select to go back into the game with said weapon in your hand. You'll have a pair of nunchucks handy. These can be used 5 times every mission. Save them for the boss. Move up and down and use the very long range and raw power of these things to take this guy down in... Oh! 5 hits! Wow! How convenient! Phew! That really was a challenge. But what makes Double Dragon 3 so hard to begin with compared to its fellow brethren? Well, it's mainly how the moves are executed in the game. If you're hitting the enemy, then the enemy can't really hit you back, and vice versa. In the first game, you had 14 bars of health, and could gain hearts by collecting points, or experience points if you prefer, which allowed you to use more moves. These kind of were used automatically, especially the jump kick at 3 hearts, which jumping automatically made you kick, making the move more effective to use as a whole. The health went down perhaps less quickly than in Double Dragon 3, but the main thing to consider here is that the difference between the first and third game is the ability to hit someone and how you are stunned by these hits in return. Here's an example. In Double Dragon, you can see me getting hit a fair bit, but I'm still able to take them down no problem. I have a low stun time per hit and high probability of landing hits. In Double Dragon 3, here I am hit, showing I have a longer stun time per hit, enabling me to get hit more. And my probability of landing hits are fairly low unless I am far away from their attacks, hence the kick being a better attack overall. This all gives the enemies more chance to hit you, thus more bars being depleted more rapidly. You only have 11 here. It doesn't help that the enemies are actually stronger, depleting them even faster. Double Dragon 2 was probably the best for damage balancing purposes in combat. Although you had only 8 bars, these took a long time to get knocked out and encouraged you to try and preserve your remaining bars with the knowledge that they could give at any moment. However, for combat controls, where A and B had different positions for punching and kicking, confused me a lot, enabling me to get hit. A lot. Even then, I was quite easily managed to get to the third mission, where my ass was handed to me. The moves were still easy to execute and land on the enemy, leaving harder stuff for the harder enemies, like this guy. Yeah. Here though, because of low priority of moves to land, longer stun times per hit, and enemies with more stamina, created a stealthy trap for Double Dragon players, where it looked the same, but felt different, tweaked for the worse. Slight differences make the game much harder, like you were facing a mini-boss all the time. But I have to say, despite the difficulty, this game actually made me appreciate the beat-em-up genres for what they were worth. Well, there you go. Double Dragon 3 is a very playable game if you don't have friends that are as passionate into retro gaming as you are. Although, I can't quite shake the feeling that, I'm not really a Double Dragon god just yet. I mean, most of the stuff was muscle memory, learning where the enemies were going to come in and what moves would be the best to suit them on the first level, but second level is going to be different. It's going to be harder, it's going to have different enemies and different weapons and stuff. I suppose I can apply the same techniques, but I suppose to be a true Double Dragon God, the only thing to do would be to complete Double Dragon 3 itself. And if that's a challenge that I have to accept, then so be it.